Okay, class, today I want to continue my video series on handwriting issues in Taiwan. Today we're going to talk about the lowercase letter q. Now, most of the handwriting issues in Taiwan come from two sources. One is students using Mandarin stroke order for English letters. The second is basing your handwriting on what you see in print, in newspapers or magazines or books. This is why the letter T is often written with that little hook there, which I've talked about in one of my other videos. This hook is not necessary. It's a flourish of the font face used in books and magazines and default fonts on computers. But it's not necessary, and in handwriting, it's actually not really desirable. But if you base your handwriting on what you see in print, most of the time, as long as you're not sloppy and using the wrong stroke order, most of the time people will understand what you're writing. They won't have to think about it. And that is the goal with handwriting, right? Just as it is with pronunciation. You do not want to give the person reading what you're writing or listening to what you're saying reason to have to think about what you're saying rather than the content of what you're saying, or in this case, what you're writing. The problem is with the letter Q. And to understand why it's a problem, we have to go back to the origins of printing. The early printing was done by taking little pieces of metal and engraving the letters in them. And then you would take a frame of wood, take all these little pieces of metal and put them in the right order to become the sentences that you wish to print. And then you put ink on top, put a piece of paper on top, and squeeze against the paper, and then you've got the print. And then you do it all over again. The problem is that these little pieces of metal. Because as you see here, you keep it in the middle here. The A is nicely centered. The B, you've got the upright. The J goes down and has the dot at the top. The K is up. The L is narrower. Because when you use these, you want to squeeze everything together so that you can see words that go together. And the G, the hook, is underneath the body of the G, so that's no problem. And then you get a little tiny dot, and then you have a big space before the next sentence. The problem is with the Q. If this is the space we have to work with, and I write this word as most people would in Taiwan, with a straight line, what actually is this? Well, probably it's a Q. This would be the word quest, right? But for handwriting, technically, you are supposed to have a hook, the opposite way that the G has. But how do we fit this word into our typeset? Because as soon as we try to do that, we've just cut off the hook. And so that's what the printers did. When they made their typeface, they just cut off the hook. Otherwise, you'd have to figure out some way to make the hook go under the next letter or have a big space before the next letter, and neither of those was very workable. So in print, we will usually see a Q with the just straight line. But the problem is if you do that with handwriting, and you get a little sloppy, the slightest bit of hook to the left, or even leaning to the left, that's a G. Now you've just said guest instead of quest. So to avoid that kind of confusion and forcing your reader to think, use that hook in your handwriting. It'll be a lot more clear. Okay, that's it.